Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired, your channel for wildlife and photography. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about carry-on sized, hard-sided cases for travel. And I've got a few examples for you right up here on the desk, and we'll get to it right after this. The other week I had one of my Patreon members ask me about traveling on an airplane and how do I carry my gear. And I thought, wow, what a great topic for video. Today we're going to talk about hard-sided cases because in my recommendations was a hard-sided case, in this case a carry-on size or a travel size case that is hard-sided. Before I get into the review and the products, I'll tell you everything that I've got up on the table here. We're going to talk about 5 different models, including 3 that I'm going to show you in person, 2 I'm going to mention and give you some of the specs. We're going to feature in this video, by the way, the Pelican 1510, the Vault made by Pelican as well, the Vault 525, and a third-party brand called Ilar. So a little bit of a value option. In this video, I will give you 5 brands and who they're for. I do believe there's a market for every one of these products. I feel pretty good about them, and I've owned the Pelican 1510. By the way, kind of the standard of travel hard size cases. I've owned this one for years. I bought this one used. So this I purchased out of my own pocket. The 2 that you see here were sent to me from B&H on loan. So I'm only loaning these to get an idea of the quality of it, what it feels like, what it looks like, and how did it handle the equipment that I have. So my recommendation for travel, and this works for me, with the lens and the gear that I have, is I take 2 bags. I'll show you one down on the floor here in a minute, but I take a hard case, and then grab this one, I take a backpack. This is a camera backpack, unfortunately no longer made. This company went out of business. I have not found a better one in 8 years, so I continue to use the same one I've always have. And how I pack is, this will hold normally my 300 2.8 or possibly a 70 to 200. I'll put batteries and chargers, maybe some snacks for the plane in here, maybe an extra coat or a blanket that I can roll up, one of those foldable, collapsible coats. And this is my carry-on. This is my personal bag. So anything I need access to right away on the plane, I'll put this in here and I'll slide this under the seat in front of me. By the way, if you plan on doing that, make sure your seat assignment has the ability to slide something under the seat in front of you. There are a couple spots on the plane that don't allow that. So this is my soft pack. This will be over my shoulders, going through the airport and onto the plane. And then I carry this one, which is my hard case. And why do I have a hard case? Well, if you've got a lot of expensive camera gear, you probably understand the need or the desire to protect it. This allows this to get bumped and battered a little bit, and it keeps my camera secure. I'll open it up and show you inside. I want to talk about one other feature of these, because the reason we choose these is because they are so resilient. They are also waterproof, by the way, and you'll see some ratings out there. I'm quickly going to explain ratings to you because you may hear a term called IP67. The Pelican 610, the Pelican 1510 and the Ilar case are both rated as waterproof with a rating of IP67. It's actually 2 different digits here. The 6 and the 7 have separate functions or meanings. The 6 is the dust-proof rating, and I'll put the chart up so you can see it. And the 7 is the waterproof rating. These 2 cases, the Ilar and the 1510, basically have a rating that tells you can submerge them, and there's a time limit on this that it's rated to for about 30 minutes. It's a little bit sketchy on how long you can do this and is it really waterproof, but essentially it has a gasket inside that should keep the water out. Now, I am a person who likes to test things, so I took my personal brand and I did this. Put it in my tub, turned it upside down for 30 minutes, put this gasket into the water, and then I submerged the whole thing with my hands for an additional 2 minutes. I'm going to open it up for the first time and we're going to find out, is it really waterproof? I'll talk about some of the features, but I wanted to talk about this one real quick. Let me turn the video on for this and I'll show you on the side. So these latches are going to open up and you'll see inside I've got a foam case in mine. There's a couple options we'll talk about. And then right along the edge here I'm looking for water. And there is some water along the outside where the gasket sits. There's a tiny bit of water. There's actually a couple of drops, just a few drops right on the inside of the case. Now you take that for what it's worth. I wasn't sure what I would find. I'm looking at this for the first time, but I do see a few drops in here. Is it possible they came into the gasket when I opened it, they dripped in? Maybe, but it is also possible that a little bit of water got through here. So this is an older case, by the way. And these gaskets are replaceable. So if you notice that was a problem, or if that's a major concern, that's up to you. I don't know how many people are putting camera gear into their cases and sticking it in the water. If your camera ends up in the ocean, I think it's going to be safe, probably much safer than you are. So is that waterproof rating a huge deal for me? Well, not really, because I feel 100% comfortable that this is good in the rain. I feel 100% comfortable that if for some reason I dropped it into a body of water, I'd be able to retrieve it pretty quickly. These also float. So if you dropped it, if you're along the ocean or beach for whatever reason, you've got a chute out there, could be a good idea to make sure that it is waterproof. I've talked about this concept of water resistant, waterproof in the past, but those ratings should help you determine if it truly is rated as waterproof. Let's open this one up inside, because what most people really care about is, what can I fit in here? With my soft case, I told you I take a couple of smaller lenses. I might take a landscape lens, a 70-200 or 300 2.8. I'll take another body in there with some batteries and memory cards. And that goes on the plane with me all the time. In this case, I'm hoping to get this in the stowaway up top. If it doesn't, and they've got to check it in at the gate because too crowded, not enough room, I feel really secure. I know how they treat bags, so I know this thing's going to get thrown around. I would never want to take two soft cases for that, because if they take that second bag, I do not trust that they're going to be throwing it around, or that they're not going to be throwing it around. So I want to have the extra protection. I would always recommend a hard case if you're taking on two bags. Now, if you check this at the airport, if this is going to be checked in, you're going to pay that extra surcharge. We all know that. I would absolutely make sure you've got a hard case. By the way, these manufacturers typically make dozens of sizes, so you can find a size that fits you. But I am fortunate that all of my gear has fit into both bags, or the case in the bag. Let me open this up and just show you. This has foam inside. Some of them will have dividers that you can purchase or upgrade. For the purposes of this video, I want to just compare what the price is with the foam. All of the options on the table here have a foam insert available. Let me put the prices up here just to ballpark it. This is around $250 for the 1510. This one's going to be around $150, and the Ilar is going to be around $140. I'll talk about specifics on those in just a minute. Now, what most people are concerned about isn't just the exterior size, because we've already established we can carry this on a plane. Most people are concerned about how much can I get inside. So I'm going to open this case up. This is my personal case. This is the 1510. Again, I bought this with my own money, had it for years. And in this one, I've got a foam insert. So you can see these blocks are loose. I've removed some of the foam and I've cut it out to the shape of my own personal lens. Now, there are some advantages to the foam. It holds really well. It is lightweight, and you can customize it to fit your exact camera and lens. It probably gives you the most stabilization. However, if you're putting multiple different lenses in there at different times, using that foam can be a little bit of a pain. I always keep some of these extra foam blocks around in case I need to put something else in there to stabilize it. I have used this, by the way, for almost every wildlife lens that I have. So in my carry-on bag, my personal bag, I'm going to put some smaller lenses up to and including the 300 2.8, so not really a tiny lens. In this one, I'm going to put my larger lenses. Now, I have fit a 500 f4. In this video, I'm going to show you my 400 2.8, one of the larger lenses made. I've got the lens hood turned around backwards, and we're just going to set this in here. And I've got this, I'll put it up on the side here. You can actually watch as I put this in. The Z9 with a cage and the 400 2.8 are going to fit in there. I'll tilt this over so you can see it. And you can see there's plenty of room up here. So if I've got extra batteries, memory cards, things of that nature, I may not be able to get another lens in here unless it's a small, maybe a 50 millimeter 1.4, something like that. I could probably get that in here if I wanted to. And then again, these little blocks I can use to pad it. Now, how does it close? This is a very wide lens hood. It's got a large diameter. So when I close mine, what I've noticed is I've got to put a little pressure, and then I just click that down, and then this one, just click that down. So I've just got to put a little bit of pressure on there, and that means there's some pressure going on the outside of the case. So that hood is a little bit bigger. One option for me is I can take the hood off and throw it in my checked-in baggage, my personal luggage, maybe my clothing and wildlife accessories in there. I could throw that in there if I wanted to, but it does travel like this. Almost all lenses for wildlife will fit in here, with the exception, possibly, of an 800 millimeter or some of the 600 millimeter primes. Some of the older glass also could be bigger. So the mirrorless lenses tend to be a little bit smaller. For Nikon, they've got an FL series. I've put that in here, 400 2.8, that also fit. So For me personally, this is how I travel. It works really, really well. I've got all of my bigger gear in here, my smaller gear in the carry-on. I don't pay any extra charges, but most importantly, I get to keep it with me the whole time. And if I've got to check it in, if they say the plane is full, I've got the security of a hard case here. Had I had two of the soft cases and I was handing it to somebody and they were loading it onto the plane, I would not trust that they would be secure with that. There's also one other feature I have. I'll show you at the end. There's a little lock that you can get for these. So you could see these areas here. You can place a lock on. A TSA approved lock is what you want to look for if you're doing that. And I'll show you what I use for this as well. Okay, so this is the 1510. Now, but what are some of the specific features that I'm going to look at in these? And I'm going to look at things like the handles. So here and up top, there's a handle. There's a retractable or extendable handle here. All, by the way, extremely similar on all these companies. I'll show you the wheels down here. I've got a towel here from when I was doing my waterproof test. I'll take a look at the wheels down here, the latches, and on the back, the hinges. The 1510, by the way, this Pelican 1510 is probably the standard or maybe the most common. When you go on B&H, it's got over 1,000 reviews, and it's just very, very, very popular. Pelican has been around for years, decades, and they make a lot of accessories, not just for camera equipment, but they make gun cases. So if you can't get this on a plane or you're worried about it or your gear's too big, they do offer hard side cases that are much, much larger, and they offer some cases that are actually much smaller too. So this is the travel size. This is the 1510. Let's take a look at one of their other cases real quick. And this is going to be the Vault 525. Now I've left the stickers on. I am returning this to B&H, so I didn't want to abuse it too much. This would be more of a consumer version of this hard case carrier. Very similar in size to the 1510. The latches are a little bit different. I'll show you up on the side here. You're going to push in. So over here, I'll show you, if I just try to pull this, it won't open. I'm going to push it in, and then it's going to pop open like that. On the inside of this case, I went with dividers because I wanted to see the difference. So I'm going to put my camera in here. Again, that's what most people are concerned about. We've established that we can put it in get it onto the plane. But can I get my bigger gear in here? Now this one's a little tough. You can see I really had to put a lot of pressure on it. So if I was traveling with this one, the interior dimensions, and it could just be this foam, because this is a much denser and thicker foam, doesn't allow me to close this as comfortably as my 1510. So I could put a lot of pressure on there, but it's a little bit tougher. The major differences here is the plastic. I'm going to call this plastic. It's not the technical term that a manufacturer will use, but it is a type of plastic. It's a little thinner. When you look at things like the hinges and the handles, they don't have the same level of reinforcement here. The wheels look to be very similar. And then the retractable handles and the handles up on the top, just not quite as reinforced. So this handle that raises and lowers, very similar, but just not quite as reinforced. Now the advantage of this Vault series is actually the weight. It is not, again, it's not as rigidly designed, but it's about 2 pounds lighter. So if that's a concern, as you're wheeling these through the airport, you probably won't notice it. It's when you go to lift it and put it into the overhead, because all of these are going to go in an overhead. If that's a concern for you, know that this is 2 pounds lighter. It's also about $100 cheaper. This one is not rated to be waterproof. It is marketed as water resistant. So not waterproof, water resistant. I didn't want to cover this, it's not mine, but I lightly put water around this. I ran some water in the sides. Nothing came in through the gasket that was there. I felt pretty good about this. I'm going to give you a recommendation on who this one's for, but I absolutely think this one is worth considering. I did show you when I closed it with my larger lens hood, it was a little tougher. So it's just, gosh, it's got to be about a ½ an inch thinner, with the interior dimensions have to be about ½ an inch less, or that foam is just much denser in this model. So this is the Vault 525 by Pelican. I really, really like it, especially at the price point. And I'm going to show you one more, and this one is by a company called Ilar. I'll put links down to this at the bottom. These are all affiliate links. The Ilar construction, and I'll show you on the top, you'll see it's slightly more reinforced. It looks much more similar to the 1510. The wheels were very, very similar to the 1510. And the latches were also more similar to the 1510. It's got this double latch. Now these do pull up a little bit more easily. It is possible to lift them up on any of these cases, but specifically the 1510 and the Ilar. What I would tell you is, if I was offering you a recommendation right here, there's two little locks. If you don't use a TSA lock, I would strongly advise something to go in here. That'll prevent, so even if this opens, that lock will keep it from opening all the way. I've never had that problem. I've never even read about somebody having that problem, but I'm just trying to think through all the possible problems. So this one is actually constructed more like the 1510. It is even cheaper than the Vault. The biggest difference is the Pelikans are made in the US. This one's made in China. That's up to you to decide if it's worth it. Around the outside, I'm going to put some close-ups here. I think you might be able to see it, but right here, look on my side view, you'll see it. The quality control, not as good. So around the edges, the plastic, the molding, the tolerances just weren't as great. This is mostly cosmetic, by the way, but it shows you the difference maybe just in the level of craftsmanship and why one is less expensive than the other. It's made in China, and probably the tolerances aren't as tight with this one, but a very good option. So, my overall thoughts. Who are these for? I'm going to bring all three back up and I'm going to tell you who each one is for. So, if you are looking for a tried and true model, the 1510 is probably your best bet. Not the cheapest option, but it's been around forever. Gets tons of reviews. It is made in the US, and I've never had a problem with mine. If you're looking for a 1510-like structure, so something that's got the same physical build or close to it, and is rated at IP67, the Ilar is for the value shopper. Somebody who wants the best features, but is willing to buy something made in China, and maybe is okay with the tolerances not being quite as tight as the Pelican. But again, significantly different. Who's the Vault for? Vault is for somebody looking for a lighter weight option that might not need the incredible professional resiliency of the 1510. So if you're a lighter traveler, you're not worried about, things going into the water, this should be a really, really fine option, and it will save you about $100 over the Pelican. Now, there are two other camera carriers that I want to mention, and I don't have them to review, but I did look up the Pelican 1535 Air. That's a more expensive model. I'll put the specs up here for that one. And this is really about weight. So this is going to offer you a lot of the features of the 1510, including that weather resistance, also made in the USA. This one, however, is going to be down around 10 pounds. So it's almost 4 pounds lighter than the 1510. If weight is the ultimate concern and you don't mind paying a little bit more, the Pelican 1535 Air should be a really good option for you. And there's one other company that I wanted to mention because it's highly recommended to me. In fact, I bought a little lock that I'll put up here at the end. This little lock is what I'm using to secure my Pelican 1510 at the airports. So I just put this in there. It gives me the security that it won't be opened. It's also designed a little bit differently, so it's harder to tamper with. This is made by a company called Nanook, and they also make cases. Now, this is a Canadian company. So who is this model for? This is for somebody looking for a Pelican 1510 quality. The ratings on this are very, very good. However, Made in Canada provides some opportunities if you're living in the US. And I have read a couple stories about people and getting warranty service or dealing with the Canadian company might have been a little bit harder. Does it have a place for the Canadian shopper? I think absolutely. In fact, if I lived in Canada, Nanook might be the first option I look for. I might avoid the Pelikans made in the US and look at a Canadian-made product. That's up to you to decide, but I've got a case study for all 5 of these cases that I've talked about today and told you who each one is for. I'm going to put a quick comparison up here with every camera case, every hard case that I talked about in the video today, and give you an idea of where it stands in terms of things like the warranties, the country of origin, the water resistance, the weight, including the reviews, and these all are reviews off of B&H. Unless it wasn't available on B&H, I went to Amazon to get those reviews. And I hope you found this review helpful. Down in the comments, you can let me know, do you have a different system that you travel with? Do you have any experiences with these brands? A lot of people seek out these videos educationally because they're interested in purchasing. So I would encourage you to read through the comments. You may find some interesting comments down there with other suggestions or other experiences that I wasn't able to share in this video. Now, if you like these videos, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the like button, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications. If you haven't already done that, that'll let you know when I have a new video out. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife and photography together.